Newburn. Of course, that's by Chip Zdarsky and Jacob Phillips. I gave this an 8.5. I reviewed this just like I did Rogue Sun. You can go read that stuff on Geeks Worldwide right now. I gave this an 8.5 out of 10. You like this a little bit more than I did. So give me your thoughts.
We got a lot of background on Newburn's partner,
Emily.
Emily, thank you. And I just like the way that it was done, because we did get these time jumps, but it was very clear when it happened, because like the page would just say 2022 or 2016 or 2009 or whatever. When we interviewed Chip, he did tell us we were going to get an issue like this, or we get a little bit more of her background character. And I liked that, because up to this point, we were wondering sort of what her motivations are, because she just sort of seemed like a regular, ordinary person.
Yep, 100%.
And so we get that. So we got very little Newburn, and we actually got just about zero Newburn in this. And part of why we love this series is because of that character. But I think just the way that Zdarsky the way he wrote this, and we know now, knowing a little bit more about her and her motivations and what it sort of sets up, for sort of the next arc. I mean, I just thought it was really good storytelling.
So for me, with the time jumps, I got a little bit thrown off. Like it was very clear. Like, and I'm sure if we were talking to Chip about this right now, he'd say, well, what are you talking about? I gave you an entire page with the year on it. Like, how are you confused about the time jumps? Not in that sense, okay? And also, I will say, reading it digitally, sometimes that doesn't necessarily translate quite as well, at least in my opinion. But my big thing was, we're focused on a character who we haven't seen, we have not met. This guy's coming out of left field, and this whole time I'm like, okay, but why do we care about this person? When we find out why we care about this person, it's like, okay, this is all right. Now we get it. It's interesting, and then we get the ending, and then it's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
So yes, like that's why I gave it, like, instead of giving it a 9, I give it an 8.5, because it's like I got a little bit confused there. And it's just like, and it's not that I don't trust, Zdarsky and Phillips. Of course I do. Like, these are two very talented individuals, but it threw me off in this issue. It was so different from everything else we've gotten through the first 5 issues.
I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Out of, this issue is very much an outlier from the rest of the issues, right? Because everything is, there's a crime, or there's a case that Newburn has to solve, and or a situation he needs to get out of. And we didn't get any of that. Like I said, we got next to zero. There's one panel, I think, with Newburn in it, and he's just and he's a bit of dialogue, and then it moves on. So yes, it was much different than everything we've got so far. But I think what it does is it was a very unique way of setting up the next arc, while also, giving us that information on that character that we hadn't had up until that point, that I thought was very intriguing and very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you honestly, this is one of those things where if you hear our conversation about this going in, if we're hearing this from somebody else and have this knowledge that, like, this is going to be different than any of the other issues of Newburn that we've gotten so far, it'll hit you differently than it did me. It's not going to like throw you off in that capacity. For you, it didn't bother you, and there'll be some people that are like that. But I think for others, it'll be just like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah, I can see that. 100%.
Yeah. So that, again, this is just another reason for, if you listen to the show, you may want to tell a friend, hey, this can help you out every once in a while, especially if they feel a little confused about Newburn afterwards.